The Supreme Court came out with a lot of decisions on some really important issues before their annual 3-month break. We talked to Justin Jackson, a lawyer in New York, about the court, how it works, and some of the latest rulings.
So the Supreme Court of the United States is the highest court of the judicial branch. There are 3 branches of government. The judicial branch interprets the laws, the legislative writes them, and the executive, well, they enforce the law.
So how does a case get to the Supreme Court? There are a few different ways, but the most common is if someone isn't happy with the ruling from a lower court, like in your city or state. They petition for the Supreme Court to hear it. Or if a case deals with the Constitution, it will also be heard by the Supreme Court.
Every year, the court is asked to hear thousands of cases, and they choose about 100. And the decisions they make about those cases create a precedent in the US, which basically means it's an example for the rest of the country on how it should respond to the same issues. Every year at the end of June, a lot of important decisions all come out at once. So why is this the case?
The most important cases take a bunch of time to decide. So that's why it kind of crams these decisions all into one period, because it takes a while to, of course, decide and evaluate and analyze these very, very, very important cases. So they save the best for last.
Here are a few decisions that the court ruled on in 2024. First up, social media. Over the past few years, Texas and Florida have passed laws trying to limit how much social platforms like TikTok and Facebook can control users' content. The states say people should be able to post what they want without being edited by a platform. The platforms say they have the right to block, remove, or flag anything they don't think is appropriate or helpful.
The issue in that case is whether the First Amendment even applies to social media moderation. And why that is so important is because the First Amendment deals with free speech.
Instead of choosing a side, the Supreme Court actually sent this case back to a lower court, which means they need more research and context to make a clear ruling.
Another big decision was about the homeless population in the US. This case specifically was about homeless camps set up in Oregon and whether or not a city can punish people for sleeping outside if they have nowhere else to go. The Supreme Court ruled that cities do have the power to ban these camps and can punish people for sleeping outside. The ruling affects the homeless across the country. In fact, the governor of California has already ordered government officials to start clearing out tents across the state because of the ruling.
And one of the most watched decisions was about presidential immunity. In 2023, Trump was indicted, which means he was charged with doing something against the law. He lost in 2020 to Biden, but refused to accept the result and urged his supporters to do the same. A special investigation found that he knowingly tricked the United States when he tried to change the election results.
Trump's legal team said he should have immunity from these charges since he was president at the time. Immunity means having protection from something.
In a 6-3 ruling, the court said that presidents do have immunity from criminal prosecution for acts taken in office, but not for unofficial acts. They also sent the original case back to the lower court to figure out when and if Trump could be on trial for this.
It's very, very unlikely that then Trump will actually be prosecuted before the November election. And at that point, if he's elected president of the United States, he can then use that as a shield to say, you can't come after me at all.
In response to the ruling, President Biden endorsed a constitutional amendment that would eliminate presidential immunity for crimes committed while in office.
I share our founders' belief that the president must answer to the law. The president is accountable in the exercise of the great power of the presidency. We're a nation of laws, not kings and dictators.
This still has yet to get approved by Congress. The Supreme Court comes back in session in October with a new slate of cases.